Whatever happened to predictability? The milkman, the paper boy, evening TV. You miss your old familiar friends, but waiting just around the bend. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a touch of somebody who needs you. When you're lost out there and you're all alone, a light is waiting to carry you home. Everywhere you look, waiting just around the bend. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a touch of somebody who needs you. When you're lost out there and you're all alone, a light is waiting to carry you home. Everywhere you look, to carry you home. Everywhere you look.
Okay, let's get this started.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
I'm trying to be an emotional compass that point you in the right direction.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you.
My name is Dr.
Hi,
Phil,
Mom.
and you're watching my educational children's show on PBS. Now today, I have a special guest, Annika. You have a question, don't you? Why don't you ask it?
Well, Dr. Phil, my question was, why is my family so small and other families are just so big?
Well, Annika, you are a part of a nuclear family. Nuclear families are a couple and their children. You're the child. There are also extended families, multi-generational clans. They live in a big, happy house. For protection, stability, a place from cradle to grave. This is very typical of traditional Asian and African societies.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Phil. Can I go back to my mommy now?
Smile at the camera.
Whoa, that's a big family.
Are you a young man searching for apprenticeship? Would you like to learn and master your trade from the best craftsmen in Europe? If so, contact 1-800-WORKERS. He also has been working for 7 to 14 years and will never get a wife. Not only because of that hair, but because he's not allowed to. Most likely, this youngster will end up a wage laborer or a water carrier.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. The people are real. The cases are real. The rulings are final. This is Judge Judy.
Case 1453, Mistress versus Varka. Get your statements ready, please. Varka, you have been charged with strangling the mistress's screaming child. Mistress, you would like to see Varka dead. Varka, can you please tell me how you came to be employed to Mistress and her family?
Yes, it is very common for girls to leave home at an early age and work in another family's household, even middle-class families. My father died and I wished to see my mother, but I was born into subservience.
What were your jobs?
Well, like most servant girls, I was doing the cleaning and the shopping and cooking and care for the baby, and all with very little sleep.
I object. She was fine.
I was exploited and abused. My master called me a scabby slut and beat me. My mistress always called me rude names. I was going mad.
Looking at court records, these abuses seem to be a common occurrence. It is known that many girls seeking protection end up being sexually attacked by their masters. Was that the case with you?
No, luckily it was not. But I knew girls in the same situation.
Ma'am, do you stand by these statements? Commit her to a mental institution.
No!
She should be in chains.
You abused me!
Order in my court. You abused my child. I have a verdict.
Boring.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Karen Rosenberg, and welcome back to Are You Pregnant? This show where we find out whether you'll be riding on the back of a donkey around the village square or be living happily with your partner. Today, our guest for the night is the lovely lady from down south. Here we have Patricia.
I do not consent to any of this.
Isn't she quite the charmer? For those of you who don't know, here at Are You Pregnant?, we discover whether the young lady of the night is doomed for eternity and pregnant with an illegitimate child, or if she's a respectable young lady deserving of a husband. Let's quickly cut to some background before we show our prizes for the night.
We can thank our strong community controls upheld by irate parents, anxious village elders, indignant priests, and authoritative landlords for its low number of illegitimate babies. Thanks to them and their concerns of an unwed and poor mother with an illegitimate child damaging the economic, social, and moral stability of a tight-knit community, young couples are forced to be responsible or else they face the consequences.
Thank you, Annika, for the quick debrief. Now, on to the prizes.
If you can pull off a win, you will receive an all-expense-paid wedding for you and your husband-to-be. But if you prove to be pregnant and without a partner, you'll have to endure a public humiliation of sitting on a donkey backwards while holding up the donkey's tail, bum facing the air. You'll endure a parade around the entire village while being yelled at and having rotten vegetables thrown at you. What a time! Are you ready to play?
Is this for real?
You betcha! All you have to do is answer one single question to determine whether or not you will suffer the consequences. Are you pregnant?
What? No way I'm not pregnant. I haven't even had intercourse yet.
You hear that, folks? She's pregnant. Send her to the stables.
What? I just said I wasn't pregnant.
Shame that I had to end this way. I was rooting for you.
I'm a donkey. Nay. Nay. Nay.
I'm being publicly shamed. I should never have cheated on my husband. Slut! Whore!
You're a slut, aren't you?
Only on weekends.
Next.
Do you hate unwanted children? Are you tired of being paraded around on a donkey? Are you sick of the burdens of parenthood? Then try out the 17th century's latest invention, coitus interruptus. Call 1-800-PULL-OUT for a one-on-one consultation to see if coitus interruptus is for you.
Possible side effects include nosebleeds, internal bleeding, hives, stomachache, heartache, and ultimately death.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm 16 years old and today I'll be telling my parents that I'm pregnant. It's been a tough journey for me. It began with my job away from home. I went to the city as a servant, which is where I met William and got knocked up. I blame failed coitus interruptus, really. Anyway, I got fired from my job and kicked out onto the streets. I went to William for support, but he didn't want the heavy economic burdens of a wife and a child, so here I am.
What a surprise!
Mother!
What brings you here, sweetheart? It's so good to see you.
So nice, so nice. Mother, there's something I need to tell you on more of a serious note, or
shoot.
Show you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pregnant. Sorry, Mom,
What?
You know, bun in the oven, knocked up, with child, up the duff, up the pole, bacon in the drawer.
How could you? How could you? You. You are a disgrace to this family and this village.
Mom, this isn't the 1730s. I mean, times have changed. There's been an illegitimacy explosion. Fewer women are abstaining from sex, and fewer men are marrying the women they get pregnant, just like William and I.
Your father and I did not send you to the city to have a relationship or have some new sense of mobility. Is it because you were not in the circle of our village traditions?
Mother,
Is it my fault?
Don't blame yourself. It's...
Are you becoming one of those liberated factory women?
Mother, it's not my fault either. I mean, if anyone's to blame, it's mine.
I guess we can agree on that front. You are 16 years old, not old enough to hold a job, much less a relationship.
It's not my fault.
It is your fault. What would your grandmother think?
But
Your father and I sent you to the city to make us proud. You deserve to ride backwards on a donkey.
That's not fair. I'm sorry, brother.
Don't be sorry. Just be better.
Mom, it's kicking. It's kicking. You feel it?
That's the devil trying to kick its way out.
Next week on a 16 and the Pregnant.
Hi, I'm Patricia. I'm 16 years old and I'm pregnant. The father of my child is unknown yet, but I'm not too worried. My father wants me to marry this guy named Jared. He's a turnip farmer with his own land. But because of the growing cottage industry, I no longer have to marry for economic reasons, but rather for love. It's a modest life I'm hoping to live, but anything's better than living with Jared, the turnip farmer.
Whoa, she better watch herself.
We now interrupt today's scheduled programming for the 10 o'clock news.
Literacy rates in formal education have increased among popular classes, seen through studies showing the correlation between attitudes of the common people and the book-hungry public. In addition, religious struggles between the Protestant and Catholic Reformations serve as a catalyst in promoting popular literacy, and religious motives begin to have more and more importance across Europe.
Prussia is leading the way in this development of universal education, inspired by the Protestant idea that every believer should be able to read and study the Bible. Similarly, Presbyterian Scotland is convinced that the path of salvation lies in the careful study of the Scriptures, following this path.
Speaking of Scotland, they have just established a network of parish schools for both the rich and the poor. The Church of England has established charity schools, and France has begun establishing Christian schools for both reading, writing, as well as prayers. As you folks can see, Prussia has made attendance at all elementary schools compulsory, and more Protestant German states are following along.
Thanks, Malika. These efforts have already made a remarkable impact on the growing literacy rates from 1600 to 1800. This is Gracie Guichard signing off, a part of your ABC family. Good night, Europe.
Breastfeeding is far too vulgar and undignified for a woman of my standing. What I really need is a common girl who can do it for me.
As a wife of a shopkeeper, I simply don't have the time to take care of my children. I need this time to help my husband in his shop and trade.
Got your hands full? We know all about that. When it's time to find someone to care for your baby, come to Care.com. You'll find hundreds of wet nurses and even killing ones too. Plus, get access to in-depth profiles to see how many babies they've successfully cared for or killed. Join free today to get access to Care.com.
Through Care.com, I found Darling Varka to act as a servant girl and nurse for my lovely children. She's become rather close to my infant child and just loves her work.
Care.com made choosing a good-natured wet nurse who will care for my newborn for 2 to 3 years easy.
My name is Meredith Smith. I'm 27 years old, and I'm addicted to killing babies. I don't know what it is. Just the sound of their cry slowly fading away as they slip from reality gives me some type of rush. Feeling their life force being drained away and their bodies slumping leaves me satisfied. I didn't just end up like this. Honey. I started off as your typical wet nurse. As a wet nurse, my job mostly consisted of taking care of and feeding the babies of upper-class women who believed that breastfeeding was crude, common, and undignified. Basically, my knockers were being put to use. Wet nursing in the 18th century is a very widespread and flourishing business. Wet nursing gives nurses a good 2 or 3 years of steady pay before their task is complete. Wet nurses are typically blamed for any negative traits the child may acquire due to her milk and were assumed to have changed the baby because of it. How did I go from your typical wet nurse to a killing one? Well, it all started when my cousin, twice removed, gave me a tip the Russians usually do. Just give the baby a Sweden, possibly germ-infected rag and have them suck on it for nutrients. Total game changer. The baby doesn't survive more than a year like this, and now you have less things to worry about. The quicker the baby dies,
The faster you can collect your fee and move on to the next. Will I ever stop being a killing nurse? Probably not.
We're going to say, damn, she crazy.
Damn, she crazy.
50% of us foundling home children die within a year. 90% of us do not survive.
We want to thank the generous donors of the Foundling Home in St. Petersburg for combating infanticide. We have 25,000 children with 5,000 new babies a year, and thanks to your Christian charity of great sums, 10% of us can survive in this hellhole.
The babies are neglected by their wet nurses, and many die from childhood illness. And what's saddest yet is that 1/3 of new babies are immediately abandoned by their mothers in pairs, and 1/3 of those in foundling homes are abandoned by married couples.
Please donate pajamas today.
Not everyone can adopt a child in a foundling home, but anyone can help a foundling home child.
Man, those poor kids.
The death of a newborn child before that of its parents may seem unnatural, but it is a strictly probable event since of any given number the greater part are extinguished before the 9th year, before they possesses the faculties of the mind and the body. Edward Gibbon. Emotional attachment was greatly discouraged by doctors and clergymen, and no one could escape its effects, no matter their social status. Even the rich who could afford wet nurses were still negligent. If a doctor was called to a sick child, there was little that could be done, so they were neglected. A child's only hope was a healer or a midwife. All of this led to abuse through discipline, control, and a fear of the rod through most of the 18th century. So based on these facts, it is hardly a surprise that when the English parish officials put the peasantry to work in the first factories, the children were beaten and brutalized. Children rearing patterns at the time were based on negligence and strict physical discipline. This all shifted in the middle of the 18th century. Slowly, love, tenderness, and understanding surrounded children. Swaddling and tight clothing were gone away with, and children dressed in clothing that allowed for a greater freedom of movement. Soon, parents delighted with their children, and love was found again.
Next.
Hi, and welcome to our new live cable television show, Under the Sheets, the paper ones, the best book club on television. Today I am joined by
Nancy Juergens, hello.
Amelia Lewitt.
And myself, Helen Keller with a C. Today we'll be discussing 3 different types of books: chapbooks, almanacs, and fairy tales. Take it away.
Alright, so the book that I read last week that I thought was fascinating was a chapbook. I mean, it's a staple in many Protestant countries because it's a short pamphlet that features a lot of Bible stories and devotional literature. Also has prayers and devotions, and it's very practical because it gives you all these moral teachings that help in daily life. And as well, it gives you confidence in God that you wouldn't have known you had otherwise.
Sounds swell.
I recommend, highly recommend.
Great.
Shh. Well, this week I read a fairy tale. Now, these stories are especially great if you've been working hard. They provide a sort of escapism from the hardships of daily life.
How about you, Helen? Thank you. Today we'll be talking a bit about a very non-controversial piece of literature, an almanac. It's full of practical, convenient, agricultural tips and tricks for all you people out there. Also, important dates and how to execute the best farming methods. An almanac for your every need. I don't recommend this book, it sucked.
Well, that was a great session, ladies. I'm very proud of us.
Very.
Same time next week?
Always.
Perfect.
And thank you for watching.
Damn, I haven't read in 16 years. Well, that's enough of that.